Growing up, I was lucky enough to watch The Lord of the Rings as my first theater-going experience, and it's been my favorite story ever since. After my spiritual awakening, I believe I'm beginning to understand why. Beneath the fantasy is a blueprint for awakening. Welcome to the Balanced School of Love and Wisdom. Today, we begin a journey into the heart of a myth I believe was channeled for this very moment in humanity's evolution. A myth that, when seen through the lens of the Law of One, becomes a map of the soul's evolution through the human experience. And for those new to it, the Law of One is a channeled text brought forth by a collective consciousness known as Ra, the same Ra that contacted the ancient Egyptians and co-created the Giza pyramids as chambers of spiritual initiation, and not tombs or monuments of deification as commonly believed. Ra teaches that all things, light, dark, time and space, are distortions of the one infinite creator, and that we are not as separate as we seem, but rather each a spark of the one dreaming itself awake. All experience is a dream in the mind of God. This is the Law of One. In this dream, creation unfolds across levels of consciousness that Ra calls densities. And right now, here on Earth, we are in what Ra calls third density, the density of choice. This is a spiritual testing ground where we must decide, will we walk the path of service to others or service to self? Selfless or selfish love? The One allows this through the first distortion called free will. Free will is the first and primal aspect of the Creator. Each entity must, in order to evolve, use free will to discover the Law of One. This choice becomes critical in third density, as Ra explains. Those who are harvestable are those who have, through conscious choice, demonstrated the will to serve others to a degree of 51%, or to serve the self to a degree of 95%. Ra explains later that these thresholds are not arbitrary, but rather they're equally difficult to reach because both paths demand a profound overcoming of the ego. This is the threshold of graduation from third to fourth density, and when our incarnation ends, it is the orientation of our being, not our beliefs, that determines whether we cross that threshold. Whether knowingly or not, Tolkien mapped the same terrain that Ra describes, and I truly believe that this is why The Lord of the Rings is such a timeless and powerful story. More than fantasy, watching or reading Tolkien's world feels like a remembrance of who we are and who we're here to become. Middle-earth literally is a mirror of the same dynamic. Suspended between the undying lands of angels and elves and the corrupted realms of Morgoth, it is a world of conflict, suffering, grace, and redemption. In other words, it's just like ours, a school for consciousness with immense catalyst pushing souls toward positive and negative polarization. Now let's pause briefly to explore the source of Tolkien's world as described in the Silmarillion. In Tolkien's cosmology, Eru Iluvatar is the One, the source from whom all beings arise. He creates the Ainur, angelic beings to whom he imparts the music of creation. This is a divine theme through which the world is quite literally sung into being. Now this mirrors the Law of One's concept of the one infinite creator and what Ra calls the Logos, which is a kind of divine architect birthed by the creator who designs the structure and rules of an entire galaxy. Now, the sub-Logos, like our sun, refines those patterns for each planetary system, setting the rules and the requirements for graduation between different densities. Just as Eru grants the Ainur freedom to shape the music as they will, even allowing Melkor's discord to deepen the harmony, The one infinite creator grants free will to each portion of itself, each of us, allowing both light and shadow to serve a greater unfolding. In both systems, creation is not a top-down command but a co-creative dance between unity and individuality, between order and chaos. What begins as a single source becomes a vast symphony of light, with each soul a note contributing to the whole. When defining the law of one, Ra says, "The law of one simply states that all things are one, that all beings are one. There is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love light, light love, the infinite creator." Now, if we look closer at Tolkien's characters, we begin to see the full spectrum of how the soul encounters catalyst, which is the spiritual pressure that drives our evolution. Now, on the service to others path, the clearest embodiment is none other than Samwise Gamgee. He doesn't want power, he doesn't seek praise, he simply loves fully and without condition. On the slopes of Mount Doom, when Frodo is collapsing under the weight of the ring, Sam speaks one of the most spiritually charged lines in all of Tolkien's work. "I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you." This is service to others personified. Sam radiates pure love. He is what Ra would call a polarized being. He's not perfect by any means, but he's been crystallized through his sincerity and his service. His unwavering presence anchors Frodo in the light. So pure was his heart that the ring could only tempt him with a vision of lording over a lush and peaceful land rather than any sort of conquest or domination. And even that, his humility, clarity, and love cut through with ease. In The Return of the King, Tolkien writes, "He thought of how he could do good, according to his simple understanding. The gardens and fields he knew would be made to bloom and bear fruit, and the children of all lands would eat and be glad. He would be Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, and they would all love him and bow to him." And then he shook himself, as if waking out of a dream. "But that's not for me," he said. "I must be going now." As Ra reminds us, there are many upon your plane who are good-hearted and service-oriented, but whose compassion leads them to attempt to control the situations of others. This, if done in a more conscious manner, can become unservice to self distortion, even while seeming to be positive. Sam's clarity cut through the temptation to do good through control. He didn't want to be worshipped. He didn't even want credit in the end. He just wanted to serve, and that made all the difference. When we look at a character like Boromir, in contrast, he succumbs to that very temptation, believing the ring could be used to save the people of Gondor. It's the classic tragedy, the young idealist who enters politics to change the world, only to compromise, bit by bit, making deals, taking funds, and bending the vision, until they're no longer serving the people, but serving the system that they swore to oppose. That's how the service to others path can quietly shift into service to self, not necessarily out of malice, but through the desire to control outcomes for good. Now, in contrast to Sam, Frodo is not our perfect hero, but of course that's what makes him so compelling. He begins sincere and brave, resisting the ring with remarkable strength of will. But the ring, like any true catalyst, expertly reveals what is hidden. And as you'll notice, it doesn't create his shadow or the shadow in any other character. It simply amplifies what's already there. And by the end of the books, Frodo cannot let go, not because he lacks goodness, but because the weight was simply too much to carry. Ra explains, a catalyst is any experience which may aid an entity in its learning. This experience may be loved and accepted, or it may be controlled. These are the two paths. To accept Catalyst is to integrate it, to heal, forgive, and grow in positive polarity. To control Catalyst is to divert it, to manipulate, dominate, or suppress the lessons that it carries. And in doing so, we distort further into the negative polarity. Now, this leads us to a third path, or rather a non-path, which is when the catalyst is neither accepted nor is it controlled. It's simply endured. Ra calls this the sinkhole of indifference. Quoting from Ra, "Those who remain in the sinkhole of indifference shall continue until polarization occurs when the proper catalyst is received." This is the soul who stalls, who experiences life and all its suffering, but never consciously chooses a path. Gollum, or Smeagol, is that cautionary tale. He pleads, craves, hides, and betrays, but he never polarizes, never choosing a side. He clings to the ring, but also longs to be free of it. He's torn between redemption and obsession, so much so that his psyche literally splits in two, as we've seen illustrated in Gollum and Smeagol. He loves and hates the ring, as he loves and hates himself, says Gandalf in the Fellowship film. He reacts endlessly but never commits, and so he cycles over and over again between the two halves of his polarity. And then there's Sauron, a being of pure will. He seeks unity, but not through love, through control. Not through harmony, but through subjugation. There is no confusion in him and no hesitation. His polarity is deliberate, disciplined, and complete. In the Silmarillion, Tolkien writes, "He had learned from Morgoth how the hearts of men could be controlled and dominated by power." In the Law of One, Ra offers a perfect mirror. The mechanism of control is the use of the will. The use of the will to manipulate experience is the heart of the service to self path. Sauron can be seen as the crystallized service to self adept. He's not chaotic, but rather meticulously ordered in his pursuit of domination. He chases neither pleasure nor revenge, and is not ruled whatsoever by emotion. He seeks one will to rule them all. In the Law of One terms, he represents the fully polarized negative being, capable of enormous discipline, focus, and creation, all in the service of separation. You see, the ring isn't just a burden, it's the ultimate catalyst, a spiritual mirror that reveals what remains unintegrated. To some like Sam, it strengthens resolve. To others, like Frodo, it slowly wears away at the will. And to many, like Gollum, it fractures the identity, splitting the soul between fear and longing. This is the essence of third density. This is the essence of our experience here on this planet. Catalyst always forces a choice: polarize or suffer. And the longer you resist that choice, the heavier the burden becomes. The ring corrupts by revealing and exacerbating distortion, but it also symbolizes karma, the force that binds us to this density of learning. It unnaturally prolongs life, as we see in Bilbo and Smeagol, keeping them tethered to their fear, obsession, and a false sense of self long after their time has passed. In Law of One terms, this is how unintegrated catalyst becomes karma, not as punishment, but as repetition. Ra says, the effect of karma, as you call this balancing, is that the entity will continue in its pattern of distortion until these distortions are acceptable within the total being. This is one of the primary reasons for reincarnation, to develop and balance the distortions that are inevitable in any interaction. Karma traps us in the same lessons within a lifetime, and if not learned, across lifetimes, until we finally choose a path and polarize. Again, in the end, we all know that Frodo couldn't let go. He falls to the ring. But Gollum, driven by his obsession, actually completes what Frodo could not. This wasn't luck or an accident. Tolkien makes it clear. It was Eru, the One, working through the distortion. Just as Melkor's discord was woven into the great music, Gollum's fall into the fires of Mount Doom was not outside the plan, but simply part of the harmony. In Law of One terms, this is how the Logos operates. Free will is honored, but the path still bends toward the One. Even when we fall short, if we've polarized with sincerity, love, and devotion, the effort is never wasted. As Ra says, the Creator is not external to the heart of any soul. However distorted this seeking may be, the Creator honors it. And again, it only takes 51% service to others polarity to graduate from this density. We are not here to be flawless, but we are here to choose and to mean it. And Frodo chose again and again, even when he couldn't finish the task himself. And that was enough. Rather than being condemned for a single moment of weakness, his effort and sacrifice were honored by Eru's grace. The range of how different souls respond to Catalyst in Tolkien's world reveals something true about the journey and the spectrum of paths available to us here in Third Density, through the gift of free will. Together, they show us that Catalyst always works, whether we embrace it or resist it. To me, The Lord of the Rings reveals something vital about our own spiritual journey. Since the Earth began its gradual shift into fourth density, a process Ra suggests has been underway since 2012, the catalytic pressure has only intensified, and the world around us feels more and more like Middle-earth each passing year. And each of us is being asked to choose how we meet this moment. This is why Tolkien's story was never just his, it's all of ours. Thank you for walking this path with me through Middle-earth and the Law of One. I hope this lens helped you see the myth and maybe even yourself a little more clearly. If this resonated, there's much more to come, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.